Now, without further ado, I'm going to give our speaker an introduction here. Our program today is presented by representatives from Stewardship Capital. And in this ever competitive world with all the challenges of hiring and retaining your workforce, one of the ways you can be an employer of choice is to offer your employees the opportunity to participate in a retirement program. To help understand the various options, please welcome Luke Davis and Aaron Pickard, who will share this information about how you and your employees can be better prepared in the retirement years. So welcome, and thanks so much for being here.
All right, thanks for having us today. We're actually here to talk about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's relationship. So we thought that'd be more fun than this, right? So. Yeah, we've heard it all now by now. Okay, so no, we're here today to talk about different ways to save for business owners, to save for retirement, to attract employees and to retain employees. And so one thing we know is that early in a business cycle, small businesses, even kind of that first half of a business cycle, your best return on your capital is going to be reinvesting into your business. At least that should be your best return on your business, because that's why you're in business. But at a certain point, you reach a point where it can be difficult, especially in this labor market, how competitive it is to not only attract employees, retain them, but then if you have, hopefully, a business that is profiting well, to start thinking about retirement. And so the government's come up with several ways to help incentivize that, because the government doesn't want to, take care of you when it's time to retire. So they've given different paths for you to do that. And I think we're going to have Luke just kind of go over the different options, and then I'll close it out.
Perfect. Okay, and part of the reason that I was tasked with doing this portion was my history. I taught high school social studies and history. So I'm well versed at teaching dry subjects to people who may or may not care about anything I'm talking about. So with that being said, I really like this picture, and I put this at the beginning of the presentation because it can be really confusing for business owners. There's all these different options. There's profit sharing, deferred pension programs, there's SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, 401ks. I don't know what any of this means. I don't know what I need. I'm just not going to do anything, is oftentimes what happens. So what I want to do is keep this extremely top line. So we're not going to get down in the weeds on the numbers and why this is necessarily the best option for you. We will have time at the end of this conversation for questions. If you are really interested in looking at one of these things that really appealed to you, we can sit down. We'll be here as long as you want to be here, and we can dive into your details and really look at if any of these plans make sense for your business. But what I want to do is just give you a brief overview and give you a snapshot really of the 4 most likely options for you and your business, both from a reduction in the taxes that the business is paying, reduction in what you as the business owner are paying, and also how you incentivize and recruit the best people you can by offering a top-notch benefits package to your employees and help take care of them and help them save for their retirement as well. So the first of the 4 that I'm going to go through, and again, I'm not going to go through all of this information. Everything that's on the slides, you have in front of you a little business card that has a little slide-out USB port. The presentation is on here. Take this with you. Stick it in your wallet if you ever need a little USB flash drive. That's what this is, so you can use it for other things. But it gives you the full presentation. You can look back at this and get more information about what I'm covering here. But the first is the simple IRA. And basically what it is, even though it's called a simple IRA, it's really, I would describe it as a simple 401k, because it has generally all the characteristics of a 401k, but is greatly reduced in how much it costs to set up, how much it costs to administer, and really how easy it is to use. So the simple IRA, it's a startup retirement savings plan for small businesses. These plans make it easy for small business owners to save for their own retirement and contribute to their employees' retirement as well. So I won't go through all of the details on this, but first and foremost, you have to know that if you have more than 100 employees, this one is off the table for you. It is specifically built for smaller businesses, most of who we're talking to when we're talking about chamber members. They fall under that category. So more often than not, this, if you're thinking about setting up a 401k plan for your business that gives the employee the ability to put money at a tax-deferred savings rate into an account for retirement, while you provide a match, this is really more often than not the thing that you're wanting. People think they want a 401k. More often than not, this is probably the thing that fits your business better than that. The positives of this, obviously, the employees have the ability to contribute to their 401k and defer their own wages from taxes, so it helps them start saving for retirement in a tax-smart way. It also is tax deductible for any contributions that are made by the employer. Any dollar that they spend giving to either the business owner or to the employees, that's all deductible. So if you're trying to avoid corporate tax and what you're having to pay in taxes for the business, this is a great way of deducting that and sending a large portion of that money from the business directly into your own pocket if you're the business owner. So it's a great opportunity for avoiding taxes, building your own retirement, and also is a nice benefit for employees that are looking to choose if they want to work with you. If they have a plan like this available, it's helpful. The big disadvantages to a plan like this, the contribution limits are lower. They're more than you would have if you're just buying an IRA or contributing to an IRA yourself, like a personal IRA. But they are lower. About $19,000 per year is what you can contribute to one of these plans as the employee. The employer contributions are capped at 3%. So that means if you're an employer and you're wanting to put a ton of money from the business into your own retirement plan, you're capped at a relatively small amount at 3%, depending on the profitability of the business. That may or may not suit you. I already mentioned it requires 100 or less employees. And the big downside to this one that potentially disqualifies it from a lot of small businesses are you as a business owner or the business are required to make one of two choices. You either have to provide a match of up to 3%, or you have to put in 2% of every qualified employee's wages in a non-discretionary contribution each year. So if a person makes $50,000, to make the math simple, and they're an employee, they're going to be qualified to be part of this. You as the employer have to contribute either 2% of that $50,000 for every employee. You can't pick and choose just the ones that show up on time for work. You can't just choose the executives and maybe you and a couple of people. It has to be across the board. And it's basically mandatory every year once you put this in place. So you don't want to go into this saying, well, next year I didn't make enough money, so I'm not going to contribute this year. That's not how this kind of plan works. In that way, it's very similar to a 401k. So you want to know that you're ready for setting up an employee plan like this before you do it. So that's probably the biggest negative that for companies just starting out, you may want to hold off on this until a little bit longer. But what it also does give you the ability to do, if you're particularly working in an industry where you don't think a lot of your employees are going to take advantage of the match that you're offering, what you can do is offer the 3% match. If they choose to not participate in that, it's nothing out of the business's pocket, but you as the business owner can take full advantage of that match. And a lot of that, a lot of those excess funds that the company has can go right into your pocket, while the employee, without costing you an enormous amount in additional employee benefits. So that's another little benefit of the simple IRA. And as I said, it's very, very similar to a traditional 401k, but it doesn't require all of the third-party administrative startup costs, all those things that generally for a 401k will cost a small business at least $2,000 or $3,000 and upwards of that. So it eliminates all those costs while giving you most of the same benefits. The next one, if you are a sole proprietorship that have no employees at all, a solo 401k is almost a no-brainer in my mind. Basically with this, you can contribute and your business can contribute up to $73,500 per year, tax deferred, so you're putting it into this account. It's not taxable to the business, it's not taxable to you as the owner, completely tax deferred until the point where you start taking it out of the 401k after retirement. There's no paperwork, there's no real administrative costs or compliance issues that you have to monitor that with 401ks are so kind of heavy that you have to really hire a third-party administrator just to make sure everything's being done properly. It's extremely simplistic and just a great way of squirreling away money both from the business and from the employee, you the business owner, with no taxes associated with either. It also gives you flexibility because you don't have to contribute in years, and your business does not have to contribute in years where that might be leaner. So if this year you have some kind of business that you're working with decides they want to pay you a lot of money before the end of the year so that they can write that off on their taxes, and you have a lot of extra profit this year than you were expecting, this is a great way to squirrel that away in your own pocket without jumping tax brackets or anything like that. It's just a great opportunity for deferring those taxes to a later date in years when things look good. The only thing IRS requires is that the contributions are required to be reoccurring and substantial, whatever that means. So it doesn't have to be annual. It doesn't have to be, it just has to be that a good faith effort that you are planning to regularly contribute to these kinds of accounts. So it's just a fantastic way of squirreling away money for retirement yourself as the business owner. The other negative on this obviously is if you were looking to grow and you anticipate having employees in the near future, well, setting up a plan that a year from now you're not going to be able to participate in anymore because you have employees is no good. So these plans are only available to individuals with no employees outside of a spouse. So if you hire your spouse to do the bookkeeping, you can double this $73,000 if you're paying the spouse enough and really, really put a lot of the net revenue from the business into retirement accounts in your own name and avoid those taxes. The third one is a SEP IRA, very, very similar to the solo 401k, except for with this one you can have employees. This plan is not like a 401k where the employee can contribute, the employer can contribute, you can both save money on your taxes. This is an employer-only plan, which means the only ones that can throw money into this plan is the employer. The benefit of that is, one, again, if you're trying to wash the taxes off of net income that you as a business have, this is a great way of sending that down to employees, maybe in lieu of year-end bonuses that you're going to bonus out your employees. This is a great way to get that tax deductibility because you're sending it out to your employees, including yourself. But it's not taxable to you or to the employees in receiving it. It's going into a retirement account in their name or in your name if you're the business owner. It is not required to be an every year thing, so you can choose when and if you wish to do this. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, unlike the simple where once you go into this, there's no going back. You have to make these contributions. This is something that you can do on a yearly basis. You can do it every other year. You can do it when it financially makes sense. You have a good year. This is a great way of kind of wiping those profits of taxes before the end of the year. And it's also a great little benefit that you can provide to potential employees and say, look, we routinely make contributions in a retirement account that's solely in your name. It is vested, which means it is totally owned by the employee the second the contribution is made. So it's just a great way of sending that money both to employees and to you in a tax preferred way. I think I've pretty much covered everything on that needs to be covered.
Well, Luke, the disadvantage is the employee match can be, does it, if you have to match the percentage?
Oh, sure, but there is no employee contribution on the SEP.
But the owner has to match the percentage they save for themselves to every
Oh,
employee.
sure. Yeah, so the proportion of this, yes, you can't, much like I was saying with the simple, you can't pick and choose which employees you want to cover. It has to be proportional. So let's say you as the business owner, you're paying yourself $100,000 a year and you have a couple of employees that are making $50,000 a year. That contribution has to be proportional based on the wages. So if you have, all right, we're going to contribute, for the sake of math, $20,000 at the end of the year to the SEP. I got to give myself $10,000 of that, and I have to have those two employees that are each making $50,000 have to get $5,000 apiece. It has to be proportional, and all employees that qualify, which the qualification is basically 1,000 hours. So if they're part-time, 1,000 hours a year, they're going to qualify for this plan. You have to pay it out proportionally to every person. So again, our business oftentimes will do something similar to this in lieu of bonuses at the end of the year. Gives us the ability to write off the expense, gives the employee the benefit of this without them having to pay taxes on what they received, and it gives ownership and ability to send a substantial portion of what the company is spending on this directly into their pocket with no tax hit to them as well. Does that make sense? Okay. The last one, traditional 401k. Again, the rules of this are extremely similar to what we do with the simple IRA, but this is obviously it's qualified for more than just 100 employees. You can set this up, Fortune 500 companies with thousands of employees have 401ks set up. They have high contribution limits, much like the simple and much like the SEP, so you can put a lot of money into one of these plans for each person. Another advantage to this that's not included in many of the others is the vesting schedule. You can basically set up in a 401k, what you do is you create a plan document that has all of the rules for your 401k, and you can pretty much determine that as you like for the business owner. So you can say the vesting schedule is going to be 5 years, where the first year, if you leave a year after these contributions have been made, you may not receive all of that money as the employee. If you might get 20% after you're there a year, 20% of the match the year after that, where it takes you 5 years before the company's contribution to that 401k is fully yours. So it gives you as a business owner the opportunity, if you're turning over employees, to not basically send money to an employee and then a year from now they're no longer there. So it helps retain employees. If the person leaves, that portion that they were not that they were not entitled to, that goes back into the pool of other people that are part of the plan. So even more that can end up going back to the business owner if you're having constant churning. So that's another advantage of this kind of plan. Obviously, the contributions are tax deductible for the business and the tax deferred for the employees. On the disadvantages, there's a higher setup fee and cost and a lot of complexity to how these plans are set up. You as the business owner can be the administrator of your own plan. You can set it yourself up as trustee. You can work with an outside company that will basically write you the plan document. You can go on LegalZoom or anything like that and get a templated plan document. But there are a lot of requirements and a lot of hoops you have to jump through, and if you're not careful, we've got a few HR people in the room, if you're not careful and you're not following these things to the letter, an employee can discover that and you can be in hot water with the IRS and Department of Labor. You don't want that, so I always recommend, if you're going to set up one of these plans for a substantial number of employees that you work with a third party that is overseeing this, making sure everything is compliant, everything is right. The problem with that is it costs money. So oftentimes the overall expense of a 401k can offset a lot of the tax savings benefits that you experience as a business owner or as a business, and the 401k ends up becoming much more of a retention and attraction for employees and taking care of your employees than really simply a tax savings strategy. Some of those others are just fantastic for the tax savings portion. Nothing against 401ks. We have many clients who we work with that have set up these traditional 401ks. We have one ourselves in our company. But just know before walking into it that these kinds of things are more complex. You need to really understand everything you're going into before you do it. Much like the 401k requires either a match or a required contribution from the employer. So those are the kinds of things that before you jump into a 401k, you have to know that you're going to be able to keep this thing going and that you're in a financial situation that is strong enough to be able to cover this for your employees. We worked with a company, it's been 4 or 5 years ago, that was in hot water with the DOL because they basically, when times got a little bit tough, it was a manufacturing company, they just stopped contributing to the 401k. They stopped doing everything in the 401k. They pretended they didn't have it. And all of those employees, both ones that were currently still at the company and all the employees that had left, were entitled to a lot of money from the company. And with that came a lot of penalties from the DOL and everything else. So with something like a 401k or a simple, make sure you know that your business is good to go before you actually sign up for something like that. So after that, like I said, you really have a bunch of different options for what makes sense for you as a business. Generally speaking, just top line. If you're a sole proprietorship, 401k is a no-brainer. If you're more starting out, I think the SEP can oftentimes be exactly what you're looking for because you can control when and how much it costs you from a business going out to your employees. If you're a little bit larger than that and a little more financially stable, the simple can be a great option, and I think more often than not, the people I'm talking to, a simple probably is what makes the most sense. And if you're beyond the 100 employees or just looking for something that you don't have to think about at all and you're going to hand it to a third party, the 401k is something that is an option as well. Does that all make sense? All right, so what I want to do, does anyone have any questions before I hand this back over to Aaron? Any questions on any of those four? I went through it fairly quickly.
I have a question.
Sure.
On the one you said if they have $1,000 a year, 1,000 hours a year,
Yeah.
you had to contribute.
They're pretty much all of them are
Is
about
the
that.
regular 401k too?
Yeah, pretty much. You
So
will
most
have
of
regular.
these you can't just, you said something about like 1 year you have a real good year and you got your 5 people.
Yeah,
You know, you can do it, and then the next year you didn't have to.
right. That would be the SEP.
Okay.
and,
That was the only one that gave you that option?
Yes. You do have the ability in a simple IRA to reduce the amount that you match. The traditional amount, if you're going to go with the matching route on the simple, which means if an employee contributes, you have to match it up to 3%. You have the ability in lean years to reduce that as low as 1%, but they require that at least 3 of the 5 years be at that 3% level. So you have the ability to reduce it, but you don't have the ability to
What if they
just
don't
discontinue it.
Contribute at all?
Then if they don't contribute at all, you don't have to pay anything.
So you don't have to?
Nope,
Okay.
nope. The match is simply that, a match. So if the employee chooses to say, yeah, I'm not going to send my money into a retirement account, I want it now, there's nothing out of your pocket. You don't have to put in 3% of the employee's wages if they're not participating, but if they are participating, you've got to have the money ready to match that up to 3%.
And can you say they have to be around 6 months or a year or something before they qualify?
With a regular 401k, which was the last one we talked about, you can make those requirements whatever you want in the plan document. With the simples and some of the others, there are set timeframes, and I could talk with you after on what the exact specifics are for that. But generally speaking, with the 401k, you have full control over how long the person has to be an employee,
They have to be retained.
and it's all built into the plan document. With the simples, part of what makes it simple is it's a set time frame, a set number of hours you have to be able to work and all of that. But I'd love to sit down with you afterwards, and I could get into the nuts and bolts of your situation if you have the time. Any other questions on what I kind of covered? Yeah.
I just have a quick question. When you say solo business,
Yeah.
so like real estate agent, of course, I work for someone else. They don't take taxes. They don't do any of that kind of stuff. Like,
So you're kind of a contract labor person?
Independent
okay, I'm an
contractor, sole
independent
proprietor.
contractor. Thanks. I'm still
Yeah.
new to this. My husband's
Sure.
a tax accountant, so I don't
Sure.
know any of this. I just thought I'd try to come learn and
Yeah.
Real estate agent.
So you know how like tax he doesn't like to like pay bills.
Yep.
You know, because wouldn't do that at home. I have a factory, caught my kitchen on fire. So so I'm just trying to have a cool conversation. Like, how do we do this stuff? Because I was a teacher and I have all of these things that were just always put in for me.
Right.
Now I'm like, what do I do with this money? Kind of thing. So
So real estate agents are like the #1 solo 401k user.
solo 401k.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure I show them the right slide.
And what is great about this too, and I didn't mention this, but I love your question because it gives me the opportunity to mention this, that to set up a 401k, that income that comes from that business that you are the sole proprietor of does not have to be your only source of income, nor does it have to even be your primary source of income. So if you work as a lawyer, but you work on the side making arts and crafts that you sell online, you've got an Etsy store or whatever, that can be Etsy, sorry.
We don't want you getting made fun of. So.
That's right. I'm more of an eBay guy.
Itsy bitsy bums is a whole
But
different thing.
but if you do have that, you can segment off that portion, and you can use that as a separate source of income, a separate business that you then can contribute from the revenue from that business directly to yourself, send it into your solo 401k, and basically gives you the ability to squirrel away more than what you could in a traditional IRA of $6,000 a year. You can put substantially more than that in. And I'll tell you, a company I used to work for, the owner owned a marketing firm, had about 25, 30 employees. We had a 401k over there, but then he also owned the building that we worked out of. He had a separate property management company that owned the building. The one company paid rent to the other company that he was the sole owner of. He could use that business as a solo 401k. The income that came from that, he could send directly to himself and not have to spread that out amongst the other 25, 30 employees. So the solo K can be a great option if you have income coming from multiple streams to kind of segment that off. You can do the same thing with a SEP. If you have maybe one administrator over in the side business and you don't mind kicking a portion over to that person, you can use either the solo K or the SEP as a great opportunity for dividing and conquering this as well. So I love that you asked that question because it gave me the opportunity to share that strategy that a lot of people don't realize exists.
I'm here for you.
And for correcting me on the Etsy thing, because otherwise,
Yeah. Around town.
when my wife listens to this recording, she'll really get on me. Any other questions on anything that I covered? Cool. I'll hand this over to Aaron, let him wrap it up, but we will be around. Again, the entire presentation is on your little thumb drive. Take that, take a look at it. If you have any questions after that, our contact information is right there on the card as well, okay? So hand it over to Aaron, let him wrap us up.
Okay, I'll wrap it up real quick. I know it's confusing. Sometimes we still get, there's so many moving parts, but we're happy to sit down and strategize on what works best for you. A little about Stewardship Capital. You guys, many of you probably know Ron Finke, our CEO and owner. I'm also an advisor at the firm. And so we're happy to sit down with you, go over our investment strategies. I think one of our advantages is that we have access to more options than a typical place you would go. A lot of places are going to kind of narrow you down to about 8 choices, some target funds for when you retire. We have the gamut and different strategies we can run. So happy to sit down if anyone would like to talk. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, let's give it up for Aaron and Luke. Thank you for joining us today. They will be around, as they said, afterwards. If anyone wants to talk to them one-on-one, they'll stick around a little bit for that. We host the Small Business Breakfast Club, is what we call it, the 4th Tuesday every month. So watch your weekly chamber newsletters for the topic of our next program. And then you've got a topic if you have a topic that you would like for us to share with other members, please let us know about that. We'd love to hear what that is, and don't hesitate to let us know. So thanks again to McBee's, and thank you again, Jerry, for sponsoring us today. Everyone have a